STL Medical Weight Loss. See the Dr. Joe difference at stlmedweightloss.com.
Good morning and welcome. This is the Frank and Jill Show on the Big 550 KTRS. Frank Cusimano, Jill Farmer, Connor McCarthy. If you'd like to be a part of the program, Royal Banks of Missouri text line 84126. Great guest list today. Sarah Fensky, Executive Editor, St. Louis Magazine. Tara Khan, back to the feature, St. Elmo's Fire. And I think everybody in this room probably has the same reaction to the movie after we've watched it again this week. Average. Greg Willard.
I actually
Supreme
liked
Court
it.
session.
I have to admit, I liked it better than I thought I would.
Wait a minute, no, this wasn't the first time.
No, I'd seen it years ago,
yeah.
back, but hadn't watched it for sure in at least 20 or 25 years. And I don't know what it was about it. I guess it just hit some nostalgia. I enjoyed it more than I thought, but I'll talk more about why later.
You know, I guess there's a difference between saying you enjoy it, because I think I'm with you, but in terms of it being a good movie, would you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I why it was so wildly commercial successful, I think any critic could look at it and poke a million holes in it for sure, or a psychologist or study of human nature. But there is some interesting stuff in there. We can talk about it later.
All right. So I brought this up before about the 5 love languages: words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, physical touch. I think with many men, it could be physical touch. What is it, the number one thing for women, do you believe?
There is, I mean, as Micah Ross had when the relationship expert we had on when she was here, this is generally among female psychologists considered a male-focused way of doing it. It's not necessarily widely used by a lot of women because it's not exactly the right categorization.
So you're saying my premise is incorrect.
Well,
but go ahead. What do you think?
I don't know. I used it for years too with clients and as a self-discovery tool. So I don't necessarily share that, but I hear what other people are saying and their criticism of it. For me, I think time is the biggest one. And the other thing that gets a little more sophisticated is there's the one we want to receive and the way that we're most comfortable showing it, right? We might want physical touch more, but we're more comfortable doing acts of service for somebody else.
Yeah. I would think, and well, I don't know. We got to open it up right now on the Royal Banks Missouri text line, 84126. The acts of service is like pretty high up there. I say this because, like, on a 1 to 10, I'm a 5, you know, in terms of being a husband. But like, the place looked like a fraternity house today because she'd been baking all day yesterday. So I got up early and did all the acts of service and did every dish and did everything. And she looked at me like I had just given her a diamond ring. Mm-hmm. And like, it was unbelievable. I may do this again. I mean, if that's what it takes. It was like unbelievable. So, but I think with men, it's physical touch. I think with women, it's acts of service. But we'll get a unscientific viewpoint to that.
I think some people, I know some women who really just, they love receiving a gift, a well thought out, gift. It's not necessarily the biggest one for me, I don't think. But I have friends that definitely say that is the time when they just feel really, that is something that they really love, is when somebody's taken a lot of time to buy a really special gift that means something to them.
Would you say, with your background in this field, words of affirmation would be higher for men? I think it is. That
more men receive that, are better at giving it, or they need it.
They want it.
They want it received. Yeah, I think that's a human nature thing, Frank. And I think it's one of those things that we kind of starve each other of, especially in our world. We're really generally good at finding criticism and telling people what's wrong or what could be better. And we just generally aren't as good at saying genuine things. Not that kind of manipulative false praise, but like just really saying, hey.
Is that a shot at me?
No, not at all. I'm saying, I am. I'm not being facetious.
No, I was joking.
And in general, I think it's easier for us to point fingers at what's wrong, and it can feel slightly more uncomfortable to give genuine positive affirmation. And so then we just don't.
Yeah.
So I had last night, got to host book club at our house last night, and we were going to go outside because it was that, just starting to get a little, and I building the campfire, and apparently nobody else in St. Louis got any rain, according to all of our meteorologist friends at various TV stations. We just got dumped on enough that right before everybody was supposed to come over, the couch, the outdoor furniture was just wet, so I didn't get to host outside, but we did have a good time inside.
And what's the book?
We read the Frederick Bachman book that I talked about when I read it a few months ago, called My Friends. It's really good, and everybody else in the book club liked it too. He's a Swedish author, and He wrote the book that became that movie. Did you see it with Tom Hanks, My Friend Otto?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so he's that author, and this is another one of the books that he wrote.
Good stuff. All right, let's take our first break. Great guest list today. This is the Frank and Jill Show on the Big 550 KTRS.
Some of my fondest memories as a kid is heading down to the hardware store. You had to pick up a couple of nails, a couple of screws, maybe a gallon of paint, whatever it may be, right? It was your friendly neighborhood hardware store. Well, those don't exist anymore in St. Louis, except for Schnarr's Hardware. They have 2 locations in Webster Groves and in Clayton Road in Ladue. Schnarr's Hardware is that place where you go in and you can get that bucket of paint, you can get a couple screws. The advice is always free. And the one thing about Schnarr's Hardware that every single family hardware store used to have, and that is the smell. It smells like a hardware store. It's got the selection. I don't know how they do it. It's a small store, but they got everything you ever need. They got the paint. They got paint matching. They've got big green eggs. They've got screws and nails and everything a hardware store should have. Schnarr's Hardware, 2 locations, 1 great hardware store. Schnarr's Hardware, we'll see you there.
John Beal Roofing has been proudly serving homeowners and businesses in the St. Louis metro area on both sides of the river in Missouri and Illinois for over 3 generations. A dependable roof begins with a team you can count on, and that's exactly what you get with John Beal Roofing. Recognized as One Roofing Contractor Magazine's top 100 roofing companies, John Beal Roofing offers 24/7 emergency service and industry-leading warranties, including a lifetime workmanship warranty for total peace of mind. From upgrading an aging roof to making essential repairs or completing a full replacement, the team at John Beal Roofing delivers solutions that are built to code, built to last, and handled with expert care. John Beal also responds quickly with reliable storm damage services backed by decades of experience and 24/7 emergency support. Get started today for expert service and a free, no-obligation estimate online at johnbealroofing.com. That's johnbealroofing.com.
At Maryville University, we power dreams, not just degrees. For nearly 150 years, we've empowered graduates to build successful careers. At Maryville, expect a rigorous, technology-driven, mentor-inspired education in a diverse and inclusive learning environment. We help you take it to the next level, no matter what field you choose. Now is the time to turn your ambition into action and transform your dream into reality. Start your journey at maryville.edu.
Repairing chimneys, walkways, porches, foundations, entire homes, anything to do with brick or stone, you need a tuck pointer you can trust, and that, of course, is Morelli. Morelli is a family-run business started in 1991, and they're only as good as their last customer. That's why when you check out the reviews online at MorelliTuckPointing.com, you'll notice that they're actual customers who are singing the praises of Morelli. So if you need a tuck pointer, you need Morelli. 314-645-1387 or MorelliTuckPointing.com.
Mike Lippert here with Lee C. Lumber Company. We're a family-owned company that's been providing quality wood products to builders, contractors, and homeowners in the St. Louis metro area since 1872. You've heard McGraw mention our knowledgeable staff, excellent customer service, and the best of woods. In addition to our lumber yards, we offer custom millwork for your outdoor project. We can produce your artistic cedar and fir timber trusses. For the best of woods and custom millwork, LeeCLumber.com.
Heidi Klaus, Josh Gilbert, and Bob Ramsey. Weekday afternoons at 3 on the Big 550.
Always current and always on.
KTRS.
I'm Jeff Zufall, Senior Tax Strategist and Wealth Advisor with Capital Advisory Group. Now, more than ever, having a tax strategy to protect and grow your wealth is an absolute must. Every Saturday, Josh Gilbert and I will discuss how you can keep what's yours, because the most important part of your wealth plan is your tax plan. That's Keep What's Yours this Saturday afternoon.
Capital Advisory Group presents Keep What's Yours with Jeff Zufall and Josh Gilbert this Saturday afternoon at 3 on the Big 550 KTRS.
And now the opening dialogue with Frank and Jill on the Big 550 KTRS. Powered by Worldwide Technology Raceway.
All right, thought one. So the other night we had Doug Armstrong on, and I asked the president of the Blues, what you're more nervous doing or or were doing, watching your kids play sports or watching the Blues. And he laughed and didn't hesitate. And he said, oh, of course, watching the kids makes me more nervous. I asked the same question to the Hall of Famer Dan Deerdorf, and he laughed. He didn't hesitate. And he said, watching the kids. In fact, I've probably asked that question 50 times to mothers and fathers who were great in their particular sports field, and nobody ever hesitates. It's always watching their kids makes them more nervous. Now think about Doug, who needed a goal in Game 7 by Pat Maroon to stay alive and keep the Stanley Cup dream alive. He was more nervous watching his daughter, Kayla, play point guard at Westminster. By the way, she was in the backcourt with my Brooks, so I sat up close and personal and watched this for 3 years. So let's open this up to our audience at 84126 and extend it to other big things like plays and musical performances, debates, all sorts of kids' activities. Do you get more nervous doing your craft or watching your daughter or your son perform? Or maybe it's a niece or a granddaughter or a grandson. And I agree with Doug, and I agree with Dan. Much, much more nervous watching them. So.
And if you were to give yourself a score of 1 to 10, how good were you at just being positive and letting the coaches do their job and cheer from the sidelines and not get over involved when your kids did sports?
Well, I had to make a conscious effort to sit up at the top row and avoid everybody. So that was a little nutty to begin with, but to never say a word to a ref or coaching like that. So, But yeah, it was.
And you coached a fair amount too, so you kind of had a dual role at different times. But those are two different things. Watching as a supportive parent in the role and coaching are two separate things. And sometimes when you've done both, it can be hard to not conflate the two.
And to be honest, you really can't do much in golf, and you really can't do much in baseball. I can't, tell the pitcher to throw it right down the middle of the plate, or like, I'm going to help my kids play golf, please.
Yep. Good stuff. Right. We're living longer, and for many Americans, that actually means working longer too. Bureau of Labor Statistics telling us now that 9% of people over the age of 75 are still on the job. And that, by the way, is up very sharply from 20 years ago. More than a quarter of those between 65 and 74 either working or looking for work. Some keep at it as a financial necessity, and others, especially business owners and professionals, seem to say they just love what they do too much to walk away. Staying unemployed, of course, even part-time, means drawing down less on savings, boosting Social Security payouts. So it turns out for more Americans than any other time in recorded history, the new retirement plan seems to be no retirement plan. I'm curious, what about you guys? Royal Banks of Missouri text line, do you picture yourself, or are you working into your past that age of 65, into your 70s or 80s, or are you one of those people that's always dreamed of stepping away sooner? You have, and what is your experience been?
Yeah, I love these, the life of a teacher, that they can retire after 30 years and make 85% of their best 3 years, and then they move on to another job that they really may even enjoy more. I could picture myself being like a ranger at a public golf course, just picking up balls or stuff like that.
Yes, I know a number of people in my life that did either a version of their full-time job as a part-time job. A lot of people, for instance, pastors will do that, or as you mentioned, teachers who either take some time of a part-time position or do something completely different. And then I have friends that left, or like the experience we had last week of our friend from UMSL, Scott from the entrepreneurship program, who left behind a wildly kind of commercially successful career to something that was more meaningful in those later years, that maybe not as financial, a biggest financial reward, but something that was more meaningful. That was an inspiring and interesting story too, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a little easier when you made that silly money to just do anything that you may not in your next job.
Well said.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Thought 2. So how do you handle conflict if you're a boss? Do you have the ability before reacting to take a step back before raising the temperature and handle it smoothly? In the old days, in the work atmosphere, a boss really didn't have to worry about that. He could lay it out. And a coach could really lay you out too. Now it's different, and I think it's better. Yesterday, something a little different in the NFL. You saw the video, I think. Amari DiMercato of the Arizona Cardinals dropped the ball before going into the end zone for Arizona. The Cardinals had the most painful loss I can ever remember. The coach, Jonathan Gannon, walks towards DeMarco as he was being consoled by a teammate, got in his face. He continued the rant, didn't strike him, but contact appears to be made. Nothing that would hurt a running back. But on Monday, he apologized. Arizona fined the coach $100,000 for his actions. $100,000. Audience thoughts. As you bring down the temperature, you want to do that as soon as possible. But I bet, and I've read some of the stuff online from the reaction to this, and maybe they're all from old school coaches, but they can't believe that this coach couldn't lay out a player who did the most knucklehead thing you could possibly do in a game. Mm-hmm. But I think in general, it's good that, the temperature is being brought down in most cases. But man, what a story.
Is the line of demarcation physical contact? That's what I would think. I would think you should, that obviously as you're in the NFL and people, you can lose, you'll get grace for losing in temper no matter what your words were, unless they were, horribly
You're right.
racist or
you
a threat on somebody's life.
If it was just words.
If it was just words, but I would guess the line of that.
Even if it's the slightest amount of contact, any touch. It's like, you bring up a great point, because the last time it's happened in the NFL was 3 years ago when Bruce Arians actually touched a player and he got fined like $25 or $50.
Well, and then somebody might say, even though I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan and we know it, but like when Travis Kelce got taken out of the game and kind of body slammed, his coach, he kind of was like, I apologized, and the coach was like, no, this is just heat of the moment. But I guess at some point you got to say maybe everybody don't hit your professional colleagues on your team.
Like their relationship is kind of like anything is okay. I mean, those guys go at it like cats and dogs.
Okay, so interesting story in the St. Louis Business Journal about where the St. Louis Blues rank as an average NHL team with their value. They are valued, according to this latest report, at $2.1 billion, which sounds great to me. And they are among the slate of National Hockey League teams whose average is up there in the billions. Still, they ranked 26 in value among the 32 teams in the league. Their rise marks an 18% increase. Their value marks an 18% increase or rise from last year. These stats come from Sportico. And what is it that my question for you, and I didn't get it by reading the article, and I know too little about it to understand. What makes a team valuable? Is it their profit margins? How many tickets they sell? Is it the ratio?
Market size, television revenue are two of the things that I think that probably hurt the Blues at this point.
Okay.
But I didn't think it would be that low, because we've had this incredible...
You mean ranking compared to wherever they are?
Yeah, the rest of the NHL teams, because there's some teams in there that are from small Canadian towns.
Any idea?
Calgary, Ottawa.
Right. The thing about when you look at the differences, and you know way more about this than I do, but the viewing, like in Canada, the percentage of people who watch hockey versus even in the popular hockey markets like in Chicago and here, the percentage of people watching the sport is higher than it is here. So I don't know if that increases the revenue or not.
But with that said, at least in terms of American television ratings for the National Hockey League, St. Louis has always done pretty well.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I was going to ask. Do you know how it compares for viewership of things like... Well, obviously the NFL is beating everybody.
Oh, yeah.
But how about...
hockey ratings in general are low, but in terms of...
Lower than baseball?
Yeah.
They are.
But in terms of St. Louis hockey ratings, they normally have been good in terms of the NHL.
Okay, good. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it is. Thought 3. In fact, we're going to have the owner of the Blues on tomorrow, Tom Stillman. Thought 3. Monique's suggestion on a restaurant, Cafe Amalia.
In Kirkwood?
Yes.
The new one.
Loaded with incredible, great Greek food. Yes, in Kirkwood. Best Greek restaurants in town, I'd say Michael's, Spiro's, and Olympia. Am I leaving one out? I'm sure I am, but it's a new one. She and Brooke went yesterday. She says it's great. Dolly Parton is one of my favorite. Her sister is asking for prayers. She calls Dolly's situation as health challenges. She's 79 and has more projects going than Bob the Builder, so we hope Dolly makes a recovery. And speaking of old people, Dick Van Dyke, 99. He's not 100 till December, and he said, quote, 2 months, it'd be funny if I didn't make it. And your guy, by the way, Rick Springfield, said he went to a gym recently and saw Dick Van Dyke working out, and he's working out on the chest machine. He was bouncing from machine to machine. I don't know anybody ever at that age who's been like more vibrant.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. So this is definitely a 6th degree of separation thing. So I'm not claiming to know anything firsthand about Dick Van Dyke, but I do have a coach friend who is in California, who also is a musician and has played backup in a band that, because Dick Van Dyke has continued to do musical performances and things for years and years. And so she's personal friends with him and worked on some of the children's books he's written and other things like that. And she said, it's not just, can't you believe he's still out there? He's still, according to her, at least the last time I talked to her about it within the last year or two, sharp as a tack in terms of tracking and just never even needs to look at music, remembers all the lyrics, all this kind of stuff that just, it's just kind of, it's definitely miraculous how bright he stayed.
Because have you ever seen anybody at that age, like Sister Jean, who's 105 or 106, she's been probably in that wheelchair for a long time, even though she's really sharp. But if you factor in what you just said with him, his physical capabilities, it's just crazy.
Yeah. And I still think of him as Mr. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang as I'm aging myself, but that was my first memories of him. I thought this was something that I just hadn't ever thought about. If you don't live on a farm or grow up on a farm, you may not think too much about updated farm techniques, but farmers in Missouri are really taking advantage of drone technology. They've got the new set of eyes, of course, drone eyes. Researchers at University of Missouri have discovered that drones equipped with special equipment paired with AI can measure things like corn health far more efficiently than traditional measures. And one of the reasons they can do that is they capture wavelengths that are invisible to our eyes. So this infrared or red edge light, which is closely tied to the health of the chlorophyll levels in the leaves, which is, all science talk for saying it just helps them understand which parts of the field need, for instance, things like more nitrogen or are under stress. That it allows them to apply fertilizer in more judicious ways, and they can avoid some of the overuse, which we know, of course, can harm the soil and waterways. It started out as kind of a novelty or looking at just being able to incorporate data, and now more and more farmers are including it in their practice to be able to have higher yields per acre. I thought it was kind of cool. I never didn't think about it for that.
I would never have thought that. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. Do you guys have a drone at the station, or do you use a contract?
We use a drone we did it on the women's soccer coach who's coaching the men that we're airing on Sunday. That we droned out on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of drone footage. I just didn't know if you had your own drone or if you have to hire an outside company to come in and do that those shoots.
We probably have 5 or 6 photographers who are drone trained, and they say it's not an easy process. It's like going through a really tough class in college.
Well, I mean, I can't. If I was running the drone, I would run it into power lines or into somebody, or drop it into water so fast, you couldn't even count how that thousands of dollars would go away. So that would not be a good job for me. But have you ever tried it just for kicks and grins?
No.
You're not signing up for that.
I don't think so.
That skill either. Well, that's why sometimes we just need to go to the experts, Frank. And of course, one of my favorite experts to go to are our friends at Altair Travel and Cruises, and that's because they have almost 50 years, going on nearly 50 years of experience of being the premier travel company for St. Louis. And of course, the industry has just changed a ton, and they've changed along with it and always been able to stay ahead of the game, even though starting back in the 90s and the 2000s when we all thought we could become our own travel agents and it would be obsolete. And then we all discovered we're not that good at it, and we plan trips on the internet, or the internet lies to us about how good places are, and then we end up disappointed, wasting money, or spending our whole darn vacations trying to solve problems that are out of our control, that it sure would be nice to have a team on the ground to be able to solve for us. And that is what Altair Travel and Cruises can do for you. And often they can actually save you money over what we can try to find on our own as well. They know the difference between a fake internet deal and the real thing. 314-968-9600, altairtravel.com.
If you're looking for your next home, think of First Community. Our Smart Choice Home Loan offers a 30-year fixed rate of just 6.531% APR to qualified borrowers, and you only need a down payment of 10%. Whether it's your first home, your forever home, or even a vacation home, be smart with a Smart Choice loan from First Community for all your savings and all your loans. Must qualify for membership. For terms and conditions, call toll-free 1-888-642-7969. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing lender.
The Big 550 is here for you. To voice your opinion, chime in on the subject on air, and talk about whatever you want, it's the 9 a.m. open hour with McGraw.
Hey, McGraw, I don't agree with you all the time, but I respect your opinion.
He wants your feedback.
Girl, I love your 9 o'clock hour. You listen to everybody.
And interaction.
McGraw, I love your 9 o'clock hour and how you interact with the listeners.
If you can get a word in edgewise. 2 ways to get in touch. Text at 84126 or call in at 314-931-5877. The 9 a.m. hour with McGraw. It's all about you on the Big 550 KTRS, where St. Louis comes to talk. Royal Banks of Missouri and Cantor Injury Law are proud to sponsor this Saturday's big game. Your undefeated Mizzou Tigers welcomes the Alabama Crimson Tide to Burrow Field in Columbia. Kickoff at 11, pregame at 9.
Yeah! 2 tacklers to the house in Missouri.
Don't miss all the action live here on the Big 550. KTRS has full coverage all week on the Big Sports Show with KTRS Sports Director Brendan Lisi and the Press Box with Frank Cusimano.
Missouri delivers a counter punch on the fake punt.
This is why the Big 550 is live, local, and the home for everything Mizzou. Proudly powered by Royal Banks of Missouri and Cantor Injury Law. Let's go Mizzou.
Let's talk about a getaway where you're not spending all the time on the road. How about Innsbruck? Think about it. You could go from your desk to a canoe and do some fishing in about 25, 30 minutes. They've got A-frames, they got tree houses, or if you're looking for a place to live that's away from hustle and bustle. Custom homes and condos as well. It is absolutely gorgeous. Have you been out? Have you looked? Go to Innsbruck-resort.com to find your getaway.
Your biggest choice in home restoration is who do you trust with your home, your most valued asset. Few can match Banner Construction's experience and dedication to excellence. Banner is an elite preferred James Hardy contractor and Pella Windows specialist. Restoration is a one-time opportunity to have Banner's design team show you architectural options to make your home the neighborhood showcase. Call for a free consultation, 314-569-1050. And have a Banner day.
It's the half price sale at Miller Furniture and Mattress going on now through October 14th.
I'm Mark Miller, owner of Miller Furniture, your home for quality American-made furniture since 1927. Right now, save half off our list price on all in-stock items. Plus, half off custom orders from Flex Steel, Smith Brothers, Amish-made furniture, and more.
And get 12 months financing, no interest, no minimum purchase. See our fully stocked Flex Steel galleries in the area's largest selection of Amish-made furniture. Plus, up to 75% off the list price on our outdoor furniture.
Sleep better and save big. Right now, get a free adjustable base with the purchase of any Chatham & Wells mattress. Plus, half price on select floor model mattresses from Stearns & Foster, Tempur-Pedic, and Spring Air.
Visit any of our 4 locations in Belleville, Fairview Heights, Lake St. Louis, or Ellisville and save on over $8 million of inventory. You'll see why we were voted the Retailer of the Year by the Home Furnishings Association.
Don't miss the half-price sale at Miller Furniture now through October 14th. At Miller Furniture, we put the family in furniture.
It's Julie Buck here to tell you that the patio is open at Bishop's Post right next to Chesterfield Mall. Get your reservations in now and go to Bishop's Post. You will love it. Tell them Julie Buck sent you, bishopspost.com.
Welcome back, everybody. Frank and Jill Show. Jill Farmer, Frank Cusimano, Connor McCarthy here as well. And it's Wednesday morning, which means we're lucky enough to be joined by the executive editor of St. Louis Magazine, editor of the St. Louis Daily Newsletter, Donnybrook contributor, and host of the 314 podcast, Sarah Fenske. Sarah, I think one of the things that we may almost have 100% agreement on in St. Louis, which can be hard to find in our city where we tend to like to pick our causes and argue with each other about things, is that this open-air drug dealing that has been going on and feels like it is just ramped up to the point where it's not only an eyesore but just a darn public hazard is finally getting maybe some of the attention it needs in terms of getting cracked down on. Tell us more about you guys' reporting on that.
Yeah, it's been interesting that, as you say, there does seem to be consensus on this issue. And so it's fascinating that it took this long for anybody to take action. But my colleague Ryan Kroll started writing about this maybe a month ago, just sort of pointing out, hey, this is right here in plain sight. This isn't a homeless encampment. This is a place where people come to buy illegal street drugs. And it is happening in plain sight. Everybody knows it's going on, and the cops seem to be just letting it happen. Well, since Ryan reported that, first the city kind of like shut down the park for a week, tried to get people to move on. They've had already a lot of social workers there trying to help people get the help they need so that they don't need to live these lives of despair. And now, those two steps having been taken, the police have moved in and are arresting people. And yeah, it seems like maybe the sort of thing that might have caused an outcry in past years, I'm not hearing any today. I think people are ready for this thing to be cleaned up.
Well, what spurred it on? Was it a guy like Gabe Gore who would prosecute this more than his predecessor?
I honestly don't think that. I hate to put ourselves at the center of the story, but I think it has been the media attention has been the only thing that's changed here. I mean, yeah, it's possible that the police were like, well, we're not going to bother to do this because Kim Gardner wouldn't have handled these cases. But she handled plenty of similar type cases, albeit in somewhat of an incompetent manner. But she wasn't turning away these kind of low level offenses. I think, police, rightly so, have tended not to want to do these sort of penny ante drug arrests because they understand it's just a game of whack-a-mole. And people get busted on something this minor. They're going to be held a short period of time. They're right back on the streets. They start using it again. I get that that's not a law enforcement priority. But I think we all can also see this is not what we want happening in the heart of downtown. And it's just a bad look that it's festered for as long as it's festered in such a public area around a couple of tourist attractions and, sort of the heart of this area that we're trying to clean up. So, yeah, I think it was never a law enforcement priority with good reason. But now people are saying, let's just deal with this.
Yeah, good for Ryan on it. Because I driving downtown, for instance, to the gym a few times a week, I know exactly what they're talking about. It was just kind of ridiculous, but you do get a little blind to it when you see it all the time. And I sort of thought, well, this is where, we have a lot of homeless people gathering. But when we kind of walked through it, I have to say, during the Missouri Valley Conference tournament, when we were in town, we had out-of-town guests in from multiple states, and we were parking pretty far away from Enterprise Center and then walking kind of right through it. And people were extremely strung out. In one case, there was a man laying there with this, partially undressed. They were not just panhandling, but aggressively targeting the fans that were trying to walk to the stadium. And there was just a, wait a second, like, there has to be some form of enforcement here. I just don't understand why this is just a complete open market of a free-for-all for clearly illegal activity. There has to be
honestly,
something.
It felt more like the kind of thing that I see when I'm on the West Coast.
Yeah.
A lot of their cities have dealt with this sort of thing. The last
Or
time I
haven't
was
dealt
in
with
San
it, depending on your
Diego-
perspective.
Yeah, exactly. Haven't dealt with it. San Diego, lovely town, but there's giant blocks of it that are kind of overtaken with this kind of thing. And, I love taking my kids to the downtown library. It's just the best library. And to sort of have to explain, like, oh, yeah, that is that guy's butt. And yes, his pants are pulled down. Like, it's the library has been a great neighbor to this community, but I don't know the community has reciprocated.
Okay, so from time to time, I'll get a phone call, a random call, and it'll be, hey, we have the address of your house. We'd like to buy your house. And then I give them, okay, I'll sell it for, and I give them some ridiculous amount, and then they hang up. But apparently, a lot of homes in St. Louis are being purchased entirely with cash. Tell me about this.
Yeah, this is definitely a trend. This national study came out yesterday from Realtor.com, and I sort of followed up with the people behind it and said, can I look at even more data involving St. Louis? And they turned over this really interesting data set that shows that the share of all cash purchases in the St. Louis metro area, this has been steadily climbing over the past decade. And what Realtor.com says about this is both a sign of a very rich population, And it's the sign of a relatively poor population. So you have investors coming in and they're just buying up these relatively cheap houses. They're not going to bother to get a mortgage. At the same time, you might have people who are like, okay, I don't really have good access to banking. I don't really have good credit. I might buy one of our super cheap houses and I'm just, saving up my money in the bank and I'm ready to pay for it. You might have somebody buying a $2 million house and they're like, yeah, I'm a billionaire. So St. Louis is now in the company of Miami and San Antonio and Houston. Turns out Kansas City has always been a hotbed for these sorts of purchases. Who knew?
So we talked about some of the issues that face downtown, and we were talking more about crime, but homelessness is another thing that's certainly St. Louis has its share of it and dealing with it. And it's one thing for us to point the finger, and it's the other thing for the people who actually are taking the problem and doing something about it. And you guys are reporting on a place called Francie's Place, which appears to be making things better for those who have been homeless. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, this is this really cool project that just started moving in its first residents last week after years of lining up financing and getting this place set up. It's in South City. It's a collaboration between Gateway Housing First and Places for People. And what makes it so unique is they're doing what is called permanent supportive housing. If you take somebody off the street who's been dealing with addiction or dealing with mental health issues and just stick them in an apartment, they're probably not going to succeed in that. We all wish it was that simple. It isn't. What homeless service providers are saying is we need to provide these sort of wraparound services, get people off the street so they can actually get a chance to take a deep breath. They're not sort of dealing with the paranoia and, some of the things that happen when you're sleeping rough outside. But actually get them services along with getting them their own very small, very simple apartment. And so to have 15 additional beds come online with this sort of model, it's a big deal. So much work went into making this happen. And obviously 15 people is not a ton of people that they're going to be able to help. This is more of a permanent thing. But how nice to be able to help these 15 people.
You had the great interview with the news anchor Leland Vittert on your 314 podcast, and describing the approach of his father, Mark, helping him through challenges. Here's a great soundbite. Not to push the obstacles out of the way for kids, even kids who have troubles, but to force them through the adversity and to hold their hand while they're doing it. What a quote and what an interview.
Yeah, so Leland Vittert, St. Louis native, as he writes about very frankly in his book, he suffered from autism and a number of other problems when he was a kid growing up. He was bullied a ton at some of St. Louis's top prep schools. And his dad, Mark Vittert, very well-known media mogul in the St. Louis area, was so intensive and so supportive in how he dealt with some of Leland's problems that this book that Leland wrote called Born Lucky, it's really sort of a love letter, a thank you note to his father, Mark Vittert.
Yeah, really cool. I'm just starting it as well, and it's a good kind of introspective look at some of the things in St. Louis that are worth taking a look at too, in the way that we think about people who are different than us as well. What are you working on? The next big 314 podcast interview? Do we get insight on that yet, or is it still secret?
It's just slightly too early for a sneak peek. I am doing the interview here at the end of this week, but since it doesn't drop for another full week after that, and since I think I have a nice little scoop here, I'm not going to yet tell you what's going on.
Okay, we'll catch you on that next Wednesday for sure. Make it a great rest of your week, Sarah. It was really good to have you here and hear from you as always.
Thank you. You too.
Somebody else is always good to hear from, our friends at Capital Advisory Group. Jeff Zufall, Senior Tax Strategist and Wealth Advisor. Again, another way of saying he understands your taxes backwards and frontwards. And almost everybody who goes in and says, I need a review of my taxes, finds out that they have indeed overpaid on their taxes. And Jeff doesn't want you paying too much in your taxes when you could be investing that money and having more money to live in retirement and live in the retirement life you want. And Wealth Strategy is about making the decisions, planning everything you need to have the retirement of your dreams. Whether you do it, as we talked about earlier in the show, and some of you texting in, you were happy to retire early and have enjoyed every minute, or whether you choose to keep working for a while, how that additional income, if you do continue working post-retirement age, fits into your dream life. Jeff Zufall, Capital Advisory Group. His show is on this weekend with Josh Gilbert, the show Keep What's Yours, at a amended time thanks to Mizzou football. It's going to be on at 5 p.m. this weekend, so mark your calendars. A slight change there as well. And by the way, if you haven't ever read Jeff's book, highly recommend it, called Keep What's Yours, again, about how to make sure you're not overpaying on your taxes. CapitalAdvisoryGRP.com, 636-394-5524.
How do you separate estate planning from elder law? You don't, because they're so intertwined. Let's face it, we're all getting older, and you need to make these decisions today, whether it's for your parents, for yourself, or for future generations. Rudy Beck, Jay Lennox, and Carolyn Stolzer have been navigating these important decisions for more than 50 years. Beck, Lennox, Stolzer, Estate Planning, and Elder Law. Call them, 636-946-7899 or beckelderlaw.com. You can thank me later.
Classical music legends take to the stage with the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra at Slatkin and Axe, Hope and Humanity, this October 11th and 12th. Conductor Leonard Slatkin returns to lead the U.S. premiere of his own work, Schubert T. Ada, an orchestra fantasy, as well as Elgar's majestic First Symphony. Also, Grammy Award-winning pianist Emmanuel Axe showcases his adventurous spirit in Mozart's Piano Concerto No. 25, October 11th and 12th at Powell Hall. Tickets available at slso.org.
A message from the master. If you are looking for that one-of-a-kind gift this year, come on in to Newsletter's Fine Jewelers. Let Richard draw your future present for somebody you love. This special engraving lasts a lifetime. At the corner of Big Ben and Doherty Ferry or at wowdiamonds.com.
At Maryville University, we power dreams, not just degrees. For nearly 150 years, we've empowered graduates to build successful careers. At Maryville, expect a rigorous, technology-driven, mentor-inspired education in a diverse and inclusive learning environment. We help you take it to the next level, no matter what field you choose. Now is the time to turn your ambition into action and transform your dream into reality. Start your journey at maryville.edu.
Are you looking for a simple, clean, budget-friendly, no surprises, no gimmicks remodel of your bathroom? Michael's Baths is who you call. Right now, when you call Michael's Baths at 636-775-0800, you'll get an estimate that's 30 to 50% less of everybody else, and they'll throw in a free shower door or $500 off a bath remodel. Michael's Baths, for 30-plus years, guaranteed happiness. michaelsbaths.com.
Royal Banks of Missouri and Cantor Injury Law are proud to sponsor this Saturday's big game. Your undefeated Mizzou Tigers welcomes the Alabama Crimson Tide to Pearl Field in Columbia.
Kickoff at 11, pregame at 9. Yeah! Two tacklers to the house in Missouri.
Don't miss all the action live here on the Big 550. KTRS has full coverage all week on the Big Sports Show with KTRS Sports Director Brendan Lisi and the Press Box with Breakthrough Samana.
Missouri delivers a counterpunch on the fake punt.
This is why the Big 550 is live, local, and the home for everything Mizzou. Proudly powered by Royal Banks of Missouri and Cantor Injury Law.
Let's go Mizzou.
Recently, a good friend of mine was changing the light fixture in their kitchen, and they took the light fixture off the ceiling, and they looked inside the ceiling and said, what is the phone number to Michael Baldy? If they would have listened to me, they would have put Michael Baldy's phone number in their phone, because everybody needs a good electrician on speed dial. So here you go. The next time you need an electrician, you need to remember Michael Baldy and Baldy Electric. So the phone number, 314-968-9999. Indoor, outdoor, an old Victorian home, knob and tube wiring, and anything and everything in between. You see, Michael Baldy is a licensed electrician, and he has a team ready to go. Whether it's something for the ceiling in the kitchen, something for the lights for the holidays, whatever it may be, Michael Baldy and Baldy Electric. BaldyElectric.com, 314-968-9999, because everybody needs a good electrician on speed dial. BaldyElectric.com.
Hey, it's Julie Buck for our friends at Triad Bank. They are a full-service financial institution, and they've been in St. Louis for over 20 years with 2 locations, one at Clayton and Lindbergh, and the other one just west of 270 on Olive. If you've got your own business and you want to have a better banking experience, look no further than Triad Bank. Their mission is to provide a wide range of commercial and personal banking services to you and your business. For more, go to triadbanking.com.
You know, Sarah had in her newsletter that Amtrak has added a third daily run between KC and St. Louis for the World Cup. And you know, Kansas City is going to host 6 matches during the World Cup, including one quarterfinal. And the matches will take place at Arrowhead Stadium. It really kind of ticks you off. Like, what is Kansas? Why are they doing things better? You think about it, if you try to compare just their sports scene, they have the best football team in the world in the most important sport in the country. We, even though baseball hasn't been great lately, we're still better in baseball. We have hockey. They don't have that.
They were slightly ahead of us on the soccer game, but we've caught up there, I would say.
Yeah, neither has been great lately. But
they did a good job of mobilizing the fan base there and getting people interested. Have you ever ridden Amtrak either to Kansas City or to Chicago?
Yeah, kind of cool.
Yeah, has it been a while?
Probably one. Yeah, it has been about.
Me too. Have you ever done that, Connor?
To KC, no.
Or to anywhere? Have you gone on?
Yeah,
Amtrak?
I mean Chicago. Yes, I actually like taking the train to Chicago.
Kind of cool. You
just sit there. You don't have to drive. It takes a little bit longer.
Yeah, walk around. You can eat.
Yeah, the fact that
don't have to worry about a seatbelt.
I remember it's been a minute since I did it, but when I got on, and realized I could, there was a USB port and Wi-Fi. It was like, whoa.
And I used to have friends that lived not far from the train station in Chicago, so I just walk from there to their place, and that's where I would stay.
I have a friend who regularly travels to both Chicago and Kansas City and tends to use Amtrak more than any other option. Apparently, the Chicago route, every once in a while, since they do share the same train tracks as some freight lines at various points, you will occasionally get stuck in the middle of the state, which will delay. Has that ever happened to you on your trip to Chicago?
I mean, I think it happens every time. I don't know about it's just like you shared the tracks, right? It's just like you run into traffic.
And for some reason, it seems to happen less for those that are heading west. This time of year, a fair number of people are taking Amtrak to do some of the Oktoberfest festivities in places like Herman and things on the train route. I've never done that either, but I hear it's really fun. Got to be a little more raucous than my last train ride, probably, if it's a lot of Oktoberfest revelers, but it does sound fun.
It just kind of stinks, though, that Kansas City is kind of beating us. I don't know. It's close. But, I mean, when we were growing up, there wasn't even a comparison.
At least in St. Louis. And at least
in
St. Louis.
They have a big stadium, right? And that's really all it comes down to.
Yeah, their sports scene is pretty impressive. Their downtown's pretty impressive. You've been downtown.
Yeah, we were just there for the Nebraska-Cincinnati game at Arrowhead, and we stayed on the plaza, and it's pretty neat when you're walking around down there.
Have you seen how much those tickets are going to cost, though?
How much?
I mean, we're talking in the thousands of dollars.
And we're talking about for the World Cup.
For the World Cup, thousands of dollars. So I don't know if that's going to price a lot of people out. I mean,
it's not going to sell out.
I think some of those games will not sell out for sure. If it's like, South Korea versus, Algeria, that game's not going to sell out in Kansas City. It's just not for those prices. Now, if the U.S. plays a game there, then it'll sell out for sure. Mexico or probably Canada. But the prices I've been seeing are ridiculous. I mean, we're talking like in the games in New York, we're talking like the lowest $10,000.
You're right, but still, just the cachet to have it, a World Cup event in a Midwestern city, that's pretty impressive.
And so, Connor, if it's the Olympics and those kind of people hear those ridiculous prices for some of the events, they do it just for the experience and the cachet.
Are Olympics tickets even that expensive?
It depends on what you're
trying
on the
to
event.
Go
to, right?
If you're trying to go see,
fencing, you're probably okay.
Fencing, you're probably walking in. You're probably just going right.
I don't think it's. I think you'd be surprised at the number of people that still follow that. But I think our point is being a little bit facetious about. There's some that are going to draw bigger crowds. So your point is, even if people are huge soccer fans or football around the world, the football coming into the United States to see these games, they're not going to pay top dollar in Kansas City for those.
I don't even
tickets.
think it's unique to like Kansas City or just in the U.S. If I remember correctly, in the last World Cup, there were games that were not sold out, especially in the group stage, between smaller countries or countries that are really far away, that have no standing anywhere near, like they would have no fan base. It's just what happens, especially when they charge that much.
All right, let's take another break here. When we come back, we're going to have our Back to the Feature segment brought to you by Tariq Khan, or he's going to be our co-host for this. St. Elmo's Fire is the movie. If you have some thoughts on the movie, you can text this too at 84126.
Imagine all the things you dream of under one roof. You're thinking of eBay. Fashion, collectibles, car parts, it's all there. Go find the thing that keeps you up at night. eBay. Things, people, love.
I'm Farmer Dave, and here's my good friend and owner of MasterCars Inc., Alex Rosenberger, with today's hot MasterCars Inc. deals.
Hey, thanks, Farmer Dave. This is our favorite motoring season. Great top-down weather or getting the bike out. The temps are perfect. Of course, we can fix you up with one if you're in need. Attractive financing options available with no payments until 2026. Keep that in mind. Now, if you have one and don't need it, we can help there too. We're always looking for super clean, low-mile, pristine Corvettes, muscle cars, classic cars, luxury cars, you name it. Motorcycles too, especially Ducatis and Harleys. We'll even buy entire collections. Hop on our site, submit what you've got, and we'll get you an offer. Easy as that.
So rev that motor and point your car in the direction of MasterCars Inc. and buy or sell today. 4100 Namioki Road in Granite City, or visit MasterCarsInc.com to get more details. That's MasterCarsInc.com.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell, the timeshare cancellation guy. In 2011, I founded Wesley Financial Group with one goal in mind: to help honest folks out of their timeshares permanently. Today, I run Wesley with my two sons, a real family business, treating every client and every employee like we'd want our own family treated. That philosophy has helped us grow into the largest, most trusted timeshare cancellation company in the United States. Fortune magazine even recognized us as one of the best places to work. Why? Because we genuinely care. In fact, some of our former clients were so moved by their experience working with us, they joined our team so they could help others to timeshare freedom. If you're stuck in a timeshare, give us a call. Let our family help your family.
Call Wesley now for your free timeshare exit kit. 800-549-8866. 800-549-8866. 800-549-8866.
John Beal Roofing has been proudly serving homeowners and businesses in the St. Louis metro area on both sides of the river in Missouri and Illinois for over 3 generations. A dependable roof begins with a team you can count on, and that's exactly what you get with John Beal Roofing. Recognized as One Roofing Contractor Magazine's top 100 roofing companies, John Beal Roofing offers 24/7 emergency service and industry-leading warranties, including a lifetime workmanship warranty for total peace of mind. From upgrading an aging roof to making essential repairs or completing a full replacement, the team at John Beal Roofing delivers solutions that are built to code, built to last, and handled with expert care. John Beal also responds quickly with reliable storm damage services backed by decades of experience and 24/7 emergency support. Get started today for expert service and a free, no-obligation estimate online at johnbealroofing.com. That's johnbealroofing.com.
It's Julie Buck here to tell you that the patio is open at Bishop's Post right next to Chesterfield Mall. Get your reservations in now and go to Bishop's Post. You will love it. Tell them Julie Buck sent you. bishopspost.com.
This is the Big 550 KTRS St. Louis, Ladue, Glen Carbon, University City, Edwardsville, Manchester, Wood River, Grafton, and the world.
Streaming live at KTRS.com.
Depend on it.
From ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. At his arraignment hearing today, former FBI Director James Comey pleaded not guilty to charges that he lied to Congress in 2020 in testimony about the FBI's leak into the Hillary Clinton email investigation.
The brief hearing had the former FBI director entering a not guilty plea through his defense attorney. Patrick Fitzgerald told the judge Comey's team would be filing several motions, challenging the case as a selective and vindictive prosecution, challenging Lindsay Halligan's appointment as the acting U.S. attorney, and a motion alleging that she abused the grand jury process. The judge has scheduled the case for trial in January. Comey was released on a recognizance bond.
ABC's Stephen Portnoy. On day 8 of the government shutdown, the Senate taking up a vote again on dueling stopgap measures, but they're not expected to pass. Democrats and Republicans continuing to blame one another for the stalemate. More pushback over the current vaccine decisions coming from Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. 6 former surgeons general who have served under presidents from George W. Bush onward are warning about the changes in a letter published in the Washington Post and also calling for the Kennedy's resignation.
Jerome Adams, who again was appointed by President Trump in his first term, posting this on social media. Disinformation and the destruction of public health and America's trust in doctors will kill more people than cigarettes. HHS did not respond to our request for comment, but in a statement to Axios, they did say they remain committed to restoring trust, reforming broken healthcare systems, and ensuring that every American has a real choice in their health care.
ABC's Rachel Scott. In Southern California, law enforcement sources close to the investigation confirmed to ABC News an arrest has been made in connection with the cause of the Palisades fire in January that devastated communities. Federal and local authorities will hold a briefing this hour. And Joan Bennett Kennedy, the first wife of the late Senator Ted Kennedy, has died. She was 89. You're listening to ABC News.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. Ever wonder why Big Wireless wants you on an unlimited plan? They probably want you to cover the cost of those 20-somethings using all that data every month. But most people 50 and up like me only use 12 gigs or less. Don't get bamboozled by Big Wireless. Switch to Consumer Cellular. Our plans start at just $20, and we use the same towers as the big guys. Join the millions who choose something better, because if you're not using all that data, you're probably getting used.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM, visit consumercellular.com/facts or a store near you. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
Confidence is knowing you're ready to handle whatever comes your way. That's what it feels like to take on your workday with Cintas. They make sure your AEDs are up to date, your fire extinguishers are tested and inspected, your floor mats are cleaned and delivered, and your workwear looks good, feels good, and is freshly laundered with a Cintas Apparel Plus program. So are you ready to take on today? Visit Cintas.com and get ready for the workday.
This is KTRS News. I'm Sobe Bay. Planned Parenthood officials say in court filings that Missouri's Republican Attorney General is trying to get the medical records of patients who've had abortions. Planned Parenthood officials and 5 individuals connected with the abortion providers' Kansas City and St. Louis affiliates are trying to get a judge to quash subpoenas issued by the state starting in late August. Planned Parenthood officials said Tuesday that patients have a right for their records to be kept private. Meantime, a Cole County judge approved revised language for a ballot question asking voters to restrict abortion in Missouri. The story from KTRS's Jill Enders.
Circuit Judge Daniel Green upheld Secretary of State Denny Hoskins' second attempt to write a ballot summary for a proposed constitutional amendment that would repeal a 2024 vote that legalized abortion in the state. The ballot summary also states that a yes vote would guarantee a woman's medical care under specific scenarios, including ectopic pregnancies and miscarriages. It also would ban gender-affirming treatments for minors. Jill Enders, KTRS News.
St. Louis Sheriff Alfred Montgomery is seeking to get the Missouri Attorney General's case against him dismissed. In a 30-page court filing, Montgomery's attorneys claim the remaining counts against him are not based in material fact. The AG's office filed 6 counts of misconduct against Montgomery over the summer, seeking to remove him from office. MoDOT has launched a campaign amid deadly pedestrian crashes. Heads Up emphasizes the importance of vigilance among both drivers and pedestrians to prevent these types of accidents. And this Halloween, the city of St. Louis is asking trick-or-treaters to help raise money to help replace trees destroyed by the May 16th tornado. More from KTRS's Steve Potter.
Since that tornado in May, city staff and private contractors have removed or trimmed an estimated 6,000 to 10,000 tornado-damaged trees from parks, homes, and streets. And that doesn't even include the trees that were removed by property owners and community groups. The city's Trick or Tree event is in partnership with the Clark Fox Family Foundation, Forest Relief of Missouri, Forest Park Forever, and Commerce Bank. And on Halloween, children across the region will be able to carry a trick or tree box with them and collect donations while going door to door. All of those funds will go directly to support tree replanting efforts in storm-damaged neighborhoods. To learn more and to get a box for donations, go to trickortreestl.com. Steve Potter, KTRS News.
This KTRS Business Minute is brought to you by Walter Knoll Florist, the place for all your floral needs. Place your order anytime at WKF.com.
The Missouri Department of Transportation will add a third daily service to Missouri River Runner train route between St. Louis and Kansas City to accommodate increased travel demand during the 2026 FIFA World Cup. The additional service will begin April of next year and run through June of next year. And now let's take a look at the markets, brought to you by JBL Financial. Tune in to Straight Talk on Retirement Saturday mornings from 9 to 11 a.m. Right now on Wall Street, the Dow Jones is up 184 points to 46,787. S&P 500 is up 36 points to 6,751, and NASDAQ up 188 points to 22,997. KTRS Sports, Mizzou football coach Eli Drinkwitz says that starting left tackle Caden Green will be listed as questionable on this week's injury report. Green suffered a foot injury in practice before the South Carolina game and underwent a surgical procedure shortly thereafter. The UFL announced that they have added new teams in Orlando, Louisville, and Columbus for the spring. Additionally, Houston and Dallas will move to smaller, more intimate soccer venues. The Battlehawks, meanwhile, will remain at the Dome. KTRS weather, seasonally cool this morning. Sunny, dry, and cool the next few days with a warming trend into the weekend. Today, mostly sunny, high of 73. Tonight, clear with an overnight low of 49. Tomorrow, mostly sunny, high of 71. We have mid-70s on Friday, and looking ahead to the weekend, we could hit 80. Currently, it's 64 degrees at 11:07. I'm Sobe Bay, KTRS News, the talk of St. Louis.
All right, welcome to Back to the Feature. Tariq Khan, our resident movie expert in the house. This is the Frank and Jill Show on the Big 550 KTRS. Budget was $10 million. It grossed $37 million. It's just 7 kids right out of college living in fabulous apartments, by the way, at that young of an age. Isn't that kind of baffling, those cool places they lived in?
Yeah, well, if you think about it, St. Elmo's Fire released 40 years ago, 1985, and the cast, I mean, you just couldn't really get any hotter at the time. I mean, Rob Lowe, Demi Moore, Emilio Estevez, Judd Nelson. I mean, what a hot cast. And really, this was a classic story about coming of age and dealt with so many issues. There was the romance, there was the drama, there was the conflict, there was the anguish, the drugs, of course, and marriage, family problems, and the way that the 7 characters interacted. I mean, I felt so relatable and not always likable, but still fascinating. And the cast, the performances, I thought were terrific. It's funny, the critics panned it at the time, but I thought it was a terrific cast and a really movie that the audiences at the time really, really enjoyed.
I was curious because I loved it as a 17-year-old, because it was like these cool, just out of college kids living in the big city. And so I didn't think it would stand the test of time. And there are some themes in the movie that certainly do not stand up to the lens of 2025. And in rewatching it, I was surprised that I liked it more than I thought I would. And looking at it now, as having lived through that era of my own life and parented 2 kids who have now been in that post-college, which is a time of arrested development, I think, for a lot of people. It's that one foot still wanting to be the college party, live that life, and one step trying to pretend you're an adult that you're not really quite ready for yet. Yep. That theme, I think the movie does brilliantly.
Absolutely. And really, I don't think we've seen many movies that have done it this well, that really show sort of that transition from getting out of college to going into adulthood and how challenging it can be. And we saw all these characters, go through that. And whether it was both, with relationships, whether it was with jobs, with other, interpersonal, conflicts, the way it was done, I think, was so fascinating. And again, the 7 different characters, we saw them relate, between each other, in different storylines and, different conflicts, different settings, and that I think really added to the appeal of it as well. I mean, really a great story, so well told.
And what's interesting is the 7 we're talking about: Rob Lowe, Demi Moore, Emilio Estevez, Ali Sheedy, Judd Nelson, Mayor Whittingham, Andrew McCarthy. That only one of them went on to do bigger and better things in movie making, and that was Demi Moore. I mean, Rob Lowe had a decent career. The rest of them did things. But you'd think at that young of an age, with this movie that was as popular as it was, that they'd explode, and they really never did.
Of course, yeah. It's funny, 1985, this really was the height of the Brat Pack's, success. Of course, this was just a few months after The Breakfast Club had been released, and I think really this was maybe, the peak of their success. And, it's funny, as big as they were, Demi Moore at the time actually was probably the, one of the lesser-known actors in the film, and she actually went on to have the biggest career. By the way, quick question, trivia question for you. Which of these 2 cast members went on to be nominated for Academy Awards?
Oh, there you said 2 of the 7
yes, that's
went
right.
on
To be nominated for Academy
Emilio
Awards.
Estevez.
Actually, no.
No. Okay. I think he's the best actor in the crowd.
She's a very good actor, yes.
Did Ali Sheedy do?
No. She was there was bus for
tell us.
I have no idea.
Yeah, well, of course, Demi Moore just nominated early this year for The Substance.
Yes.
She was the heavy favorite. She lost to Mikey Madison and Honora. And then Mayor Whittingham, she was nominated for this film called Georgia, Best Supporting Actress of 1985.
Really?
She was terrific. Film with Jennifer Jason Leigh. Anyway, just thought I'd mention that.
Good. I mean, because we and I think neither one of us knew it. I didn't realize this until we were researching for this conversation today, that Demi Moore did have a serious drug problem at the time, and as a young 20-something-year-old, so much so that Joel Schumacher, director, demanded she went to rehab before she could finish the role. So a little drama behind the scenes in addition to what we saw.
Yeah, exactly.
Given the fact that her character had a drug issue too, that was interesting.
And it's interesting too because they were so worried about her, whether she was going to be there, that Madonna was one of the actresses that they considered for that role. Can you imagine Madonna with Rob Lowe outside the Jeep?
Oh yeah, exactly, yes. But no, I think Madonna would have been great. But Demi Moore, I think this really was one of her most iconic performances. Demi Moore, she was fantastic in this film, and of course the final scene where you see her sitting on the floor of her apartment and she's trying to freeze herself to death, and she says
that was a little wild. Yeah, I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to turn on the air conditioning as strong as I can. I'm going to die.
Oh right, yes. But then of course when Rob Lowe breaks in,
they try to do it in the studio every day to us, and it hasn't worked so far.
But they have that heartfelt conversation, and she says, "I never thought I'd feel so old at 22." And I thought that moment was just, so compelling, so believable, so honest. So I thought really her performance, her impact, I think she was dynamite in St. Elmo's Fire.
And the free-flowing drugs in this movie, it's interesting because they say that life imitates art. For these Brat Packers, Lowe, Moore, Sheedy, and Nelson all had problems later on in life.
Yeah, interesting. And I suppose, at the time, I mean, this again being a, classic 80s movie, I mean, we're focused on, money and looks and everything's, so important. And of course, drugs were a part of that. Mm-hmm. And I think that the film was very honest, in its portrayal, of drug use. And, we saw that. And one of the interesting things about the film is that at the very end, we wondered, how it was going to turn out. And, would Demi Moore, would she make it? And, she did. So there actually was, still that bit of optimism towards the end.
There was. I can understand why critics thought it was a little tied up in a bow neatly that that Judd Nelson and I mean that the 2 best friends had been in love with the same women and had both slept with them, that they were like, okay, let's be buddies and go to brunch after all, was kind of maybe a bridge too far for a lot of people. But I think there was. And, by today's standards, probably each of the characters was doing sort of what we saw in The Breakfast Club as well, where they were representing a stereotype of a certain kind of person, the preppy rich girl, the wild party child, all of those, the extremely driven, success-driven person, the love lovelorn Emilio Estevez characters who had the obsession with
Andy McDowell,
Andy
yes, the way
McDowell.
he just went after
But they
her,
all
yes.
played those stereotypical, roles. But I think kind of like what you pointed out in Breakfast Club, we can sort of all see a little bit of ourselves in those
Yes.
stereotypes, or
Absolutely,
in those
Jill.
archetypes.
Oh, right. And it's funny, even though in a sense you might think of them as being cliches, I thought actually the characters were actually very three-dimensional. And I mean, they took, elements which we thought were sort of stereotypical. I mean, being, the rich, preppy person, the young woman who's just, into, fashion and drugs, whatnot. And, the troubled, musician who's got a wife and a child, whatnot. But I thought really they were very three-dimensional, and we saw them really grow through the film. There really was arc development, and at the end, we really did see them transition, I think, into adulthood, which was the point of the film. So that was done very well.
So let's get to the critics' angle. Siskel and Ebert didn't give it a full review, but I saw a thumbs down. I think Rotten Tomatoes was under 50.
Yes.
Nobody liked it, but why did it become so popular? Because you had a bunch of attractive people on the big
Well,
screen?
no,
or what?
honestly, I would say it's one of those things where, look, it's like let's say you take pizza. I mean, a snobbish food critic can say pizza's pizza, but you give it to people, they're hungry, and they'll eat it up. I mean, I think it was a great film. It was a great cast. I think it was well written, well acted, a great story which people could relate to. And again, the critics at times, they can be snobs, and they can be looking for something which they feel is more artistically, challenging and more insightful. But I think St. Elmo's Fire, I think it was a film that was made for audiences at the time who loved it, and I still think people who go back and revisit it still love it to this day.
Right, and our favorite critics in the world, Max Foisey and Lynn Van House, are definitely not snobs. But,
there you go. Okay.
but we know a lot of other people can be. 2 questions from the Royal Banks of Missouri text line that I think are good. Number 1, Rob Lowe has said they're making a sequel. Do you know anything about that? And number 2, I never saw the movie, but I want to know what the meaning is behind the title.
Yeah. Okay, well, first of all, I've heard about the possible sequel. I don't know where it stands. I think it'd be great to just see where these characters end up 40 years later. So I think there'd be a lot of interest in it. And again, of course, Demi Moore coming up for Oscar nomination, I think it would be a really big sell to audiences. So we'll see where that goes. And then St. Elmo's Fire, the scene at the end where Rob Lowe and Demi Moore are talking, where again she is just trying to kill herself, and he says that he's talking about her problems, and he says, you know what this is? He said this is St. Elmo's Fire, and he's referring to sailors and how they would see these like flashes of light, and that's what would sort of keep them going, but they weren't even real. And he said that this is what Demi Moore, and I guess all of them were facing these things, these challenges that they felt that they needed to. That they sort of needed to sort of keep them going. It was almost like.
But they weren't going to destroy them because lightning wasn't going to strike,
exactly.
And it was the name of their favorite college bar.
Right, exactly. Which, of course, by the end, that very final scene where they look to almost go there and it's too crowded. They say, well, let's go somewhere else. Hula hands. It's less crowded, fewer kids there. So you saw them really, growing up.
And there's some decent humor in it. It's like when Ali Sheedy and Judd Nelson were breaking up and they were fighting over which albums they would keep. And the whole Chrysler LeBaron bribe.
Right.
I mean, of all cars, Chrysler LeBaron, there's actually Costanza's in Seinfeld too. But it's kind of realistic because some fathers would do that to keep you away from a scoundrel, or at least the one they thought would be a scoundrel.
Yeah.
I want to get your take on this. The Big Chill is regarded as a great movie, and I think there's a similarity, but the reason The Big Chill I think was better is it's people further removed from college, and it was a little bit more brutally honest. I mean, it was William Hurt or John Hurt?
William Hurt, yes.
William Hurt, yeah. I just thought his brutal honesty, and we really aren't friends. And just some of that dialogue was serious stuff, and it got a lot deeper than this one.
I think so too. And of course, The Big Chill was, a Best Picture nominee. Glenn Close was nominated for an Academy Award. I think the critics related to The Big Chill, I think, a lot more because most of them were older, probably the same age as many characters in The Big Chill. And so I think the critics and the Academy as well related to that film more. But St. Elmo's Fire, in a sense, it really was, The Big Chill, just at a different period in people's lives.
Yeah, that's a good correlation.
That time coming out of college and transitioning into adulthood. So I think really, for different time periods, I think they both sort of serve their purpose. And St. Elmo's Fire, I think, just did it just as well almost as The Big Chill.
From the 314, the shot of Andy McDowell at the party where she removes her hood and she's backlit is just breathtaking. In our prenup, she's always been my hall pass. That's a good one.
Good choice, yes. Of course, Andy McDowell, also known for 4 Weddings and a Funeral and Groundhog Day. So, yes, so memorable as Dale, the doctor in this film.
Could the best thing about this movie be the soundtrack?
Oh, the soundtrack was terrific. Of course, St. Elmo's Fire, Man in Motion by John Parr was a #1 hit for 2 weeks back in September 8, 1985. And of course, the love theme from St. Elmo's Fire from David Foster was so beautiful. It was a great instrumental. Yeah, I thought the soundtrack was fantastic.
How does it stand the test of time for the?
Well, I had to agree with
Gen
Frank's
Z?
initial statement. They really had some great living situations going on, I thought. I mean, I guess they're
We're all
supposed
living like that when we're 22,
yeah,
right?
some of them were supposed to have like jobs that were fairly highly profile, I guess. So I guess that is how you explain it. But I thought that it was fine. I didn't grow up in the time of this movie, so maybe it didn't resonate with me as much.
Yeah, I hear that too. Although we did learn that Demi Moore's character, it was all a facade. Her fancy apartment was a hall of mirrors, a house of cards, because she was that was her demise as she spent all this money she didn't have. So.
All right, so next in 2 weeks, our movie is going to be dramatically different and regarded as a great movie, right? Everybody enjoyed this.
That's right. As we get closer to Halloween, we'll talk about Psycho, Alfred Hitchcock's classic, starring Anthony Perkins and Janet Leigh, and really one of Hitchcock's really most, I think, memorable films, and one which shocked people at the time, and really was an absolute masterpiece.
Good stuff. Good to see you, sir. Thank you so much for coming in.
Okay, guys, starting to get that rumble in your stomachs like the rest of us are. No problem. Just make your plans right now, or turn the car around, or plan to go by maybe the place that you drive by frequently anyway, and that is the Phillips 66 station, Clayton Road and 141. Why? It's the home of 3 Bay Barbecue and Bakery, the winner of multiple recent awards of being the top list of the best food you can find in a gas station in the top 10 nationwide on multiple lists now. The best food you can find in a gas station. I know we're not talking about the best snack bars or candy bars or chips or hot dogs on the roller. There's a beautiful, just adorable restaurant back where the service bays used to be at 3 Bay Barbecue and Bakery. Started as a food truck. The Grosses, Rick and Carol, love food and said, we've grown out of our food truck here. We have the gas station. Let's convert the back of it into a great restaurant where people can have a delicious lunch, meet with friends, have work meetings there, or you can also, of course, cater your next party for your business, for a special event in your family. Give them a call, 636-227-1208 for catering, or better yet, stop by 3 Bay Barbecue and Bakery in the back of the Phillips 66 station at Clayton Road and 141. You'll be glad you did.
Jewels on Hampton pays some of the highest prices on gold, silver, diamonds, gemstones, coins, collectibles, and sports memorabilia. JewelsOnHampton.com.
You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
At Midland, we know sometimes all it takes is a moment for an idea to spark, or to make it happen, a moment to find your dream, or build one, a moment to start your forever, or at least start planning for it. Whatever moments you have, Midland is here for them and can help you make them. Midland, brighter together. Visit us at midlandsb.com. Midland States Bank is member FDIC.
Carney, Buck.
Hey, Wednesday on the Carney Show, we turned you on to a woman last week playing Leonard Skinner on the bagpipes. I liked her so much, we invited her to the show and she accepted.
Also, Bob Ramsey will be here. I don't think he'll be playing any instruments, but he'll know a lot about sports.
Jim Hacking, too, an attorney who's keeping my favorite buffet open, and I love him for it.
We'll see you here right at noon.
John Carney, Julie Buck, weekdays at noon on KTRS, the talk of St. Louis.
You can count on Cantor. I'm Mark Cantor. When I was 12 years old, I witnessed my father, a pediatric doctor at Cardinal Glennon Hospital, suffer a terrible accident when a large and defective battery exploded in his face. My father went into shock and had to undergo emergency surgery to save his life. While my dad recovered, he hired a lawyer who promised that no one else would be hurt by that company's product, and he filed a lawsuit to make sure no one did. I love my dad, and what he went through inspired me to become a lawyer and to start Cantor Injury Law. Like my father, I serve the St. Louis community, and I have done so for over 30 years. You can count on Cantor to treat you like family, to understand your case and your injury, and to fight for you. You can count on Cantor to help make things right. Visit cantorinjurylaw.com or find us on Facebook or call us at 314-628-9999. The choice of a lawyer is an important decision, should not be based solely upon advertisement, so call Cantor.
The University of Missouri St. Louis offers academic programs at the undergraduate, graduate, doctoral, and professional levels to fit any passion, purpose, and schedule. At UMSL, more is what moves us. Find your more at more.umsl.edu.
Looking for a new kitchen or bath? Call me, Anne-Marie Boges, the co-host of the Inside Out Show and owner and designer at Anne-Marie Design Studio, proud supporter of breast cancer awareness and KTRS Pink. Visit our website at annemariestudio.com. We can help make your dream space into a reality. We're a fine kitchen and bath boutique located in Wildwood. We do it all, from design to bid to installation too. Call us today at 636-821-3395 or go online at annemariestudio.com. Let's make your dream kitchen or bath a reality with Anne-Marie Design Studio.
Are you ready for some football? Mizzou football on the Big 550 KTRS is powered by Graybar.
High snap, good place, kick is up, and it is good.
This Saturday morning, your undefeated Mizzou Tigers welcomes the Alabama Crimson Tide to Furrow Field in Columbia. Kickoff at 11, pregame at 9. Catch all the action right here on the Big 550. KTRS, presented by Graybar, for all your electrical and datacom solutions.
The Bomarito Automotive Group is Missouri's #1 automotive group. They've been your #1 choice for all your automotive needs for over 51 years. They've sold over 1 million vehicles by giving you a better price, a better selection, and more for your trade. You can shop them online, see their entire inventory at bomarito.com.
Want a song? Want a quote? It's the song and quote of the day on the Frank and Jill Show. Right here on the Big 550 KTRS.
It is Wednesday, hump day. Very glad you are with us for this edition of the Frank and Jill Show in the second hour here. We're looking forward to having our friend Greg Willard coming in. Of course, KTRS legal analyst and con law professor, Supreme Court back in session. Lots to talk about there in just a few minutes. Yesterday when I was leaving the station, Frank, it was just it was cloudy, first cloudy day we'd had in a while. And I noticed the leaves were changing colors a little bit. And that scenario, that tableau, if you will, is what inspired today's Song of the Day. You guys may have already known this, Connor and Frank. I did not. I knew the song was written by one of the members of the group. Turns out it was two. John and Michelle Phillips wrote the song in 1963, but it was first recorded by Barry McGuire, and the Mamas and the Papas sang backup on that original Barry McGuire version, and then released it themselves as a single in 1965. And that was all she wrote. It became a really big hit.
It's a pretty famous song. I think everybody. You can kind of remember where you were, or if you're a little bit older. Well, what year did it come out?
65.
Oh, well, maybe I don't know where I was when it happened, but still, it's a famous song.
You're running around at preschool, really having a crazy time. But I think it stands the test of time. It's one of those ones that I definitely continue listening to it when it comes on the playlist or rolls around, and the harmonies on it are, I think, really, really good.
And didn't Michelle Phillips? Wasn't she in acting? Was she in one of those Knots Landings or Dallases? Or did she do any acting too?
She did, but I can't remember where. But you're right. She did have a foray post music.
Knots Landing, yep.
You're a much better expert on Knots Landing than I am, so I'm always going to defer to you.
Yeah, she was the mother of Nicolette Sheridan, Paige Matheson, yep.
Your eyes are like off in the distance. We've totally lost you for a second there. Taken back on your. When we talk about Knots Landing and Dynasty, there's
Dallas.
There's just a real look of a wistfulness in your eyes. Can you explain that to us just a little bit more?
J.R. Ewing was my guy.
Knots Landing, 344 episodes.
Is that right?
I can't.
Wow.
Did you see all of them? Can you tell us what happened in every single one?
I don't think I've seen a single one. This one did not have a lasting impact.
You were not the target audience. I watched it for a while, but not all 300 episodes. Now, you asked me about pretty much every episode of The Brady Bunch or Gilligan's Island. I gotcha, because I was the latchkey kid who watched that every day.
Did you think Blake Carrington, John Forsythe, was a very elegantly handsome man?
No, not really. They would have been above my. That was.
I bet Greg Willard thought that John Forsythe, Blake Carrington from Dynasty, was a really cool customer. Just nod your head. Didn't you think he was kind of cool, Greg? Yeah, oh, yeah, he's nodding.
Okay, yeah. Guys, you put him on the spot. Yeah, no
he was with Linda Evans and Joan Collins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, your expertise, I defer to it completely here. You and I both like to listen at various times to podcasts. One of the ones that I enjoy if I just want total, lose myself and just kind of funny conversations is Good Hang with Amy Poehler. Have you ever listened to that?
I have not. But it's one of the top 10 podcast.
I think she does a really good job of just kind of hanging out with friends and telling stories. And is she the world's best interviewer? Probably not. But she's so appealing and bright and done some cool stuff. And I'm a big Kristen Wiig fan, too. So I enjoyed a recent episode where the two of them had this conversation. Apparently, Kristen Wiig's husband said she's terrible at it and that he's stopped asking her in public because, everybody thinks that she's going to be hilarious. Sure. And then she gets the deer in the headlights and then tells this really rambling, bad story. And sometimes people start laughing because they think she's trying to do a bit to tell the story so bad. But I thought that was kind of endearing for sure. One of the things that I think a lot of people, when we're thinking about senior communities and where we want our loved ones to be able to thrive in the season of life where they need more support and a more supportive community, the truth is a lot of the senior communities are owned by national companies. This leads, of course, to a more corporate environment. And what you're missing in those cases is often the personal touch, the ability to ask decision makers and to get answers from people who are on the ground here in St. Louis and who have the power to make decisions and to answer your questions fully. You're not going to get the runaround. And that is something that McKnight Place has been very proud of because it's happened for 30 years. Their assisted living and memory care is all about local ownership and being accountable to the families and the residents who they try to make life so good for when they are there. Apartments can be tailored for each of the residents. And one of the things that they are stand out above the crowd as well as the amenities, social and learning. Utilities are included. All kind of things like satellite TV, wireless internet, daily happy hour, things that just are one fewer thing for the residents to have to think about. Somebody else able to hand over those responsibilities that as homeowners we've had to manage and struggle with for all those years. If it's time for you to start having that conversation about a loved one in your life or for you or you and your spouse or maybe somebody else, a family member, just start with a phone call. McKnight Place, 314-993-3333. It's an easy one to remember. Or McKnightPlace.com to set up your tour.
Watch your favorite team, eat your favorite food. It's the Village Bar. You've heard about the world-famous cheeseburger. Stop by and check it out. Even better, bring your friends on your way to the game, after the game, or just watching the game. Food, sports, and a cold beer. We'll see you at the Village Bar.
Do you know why right now is the absolute best time to book your new patio or deck with my friends at Outdoor Living? Aside from being the best in town, these guys are really smart. They pay attention to market conditions, and they've stocked up on patio and deck supplies, including steel, all before these tariffs kicked in. So while their competitors' pricing has gone through the roof, Prices have never been better at Outdoor Living. Now is the best time to call and book your summer job. Not to mention, these same competitors have sold out to large conglomerates and hedge funds. Pat Leahy and his team remain locally owned and operated, providing the best pricing and the best service in town. So, looking for a new deck or a new fence or anything outdoor? Outdoor Living, 314-966-DECK. That's 314-966-DECK. Or check them out online, Outdoor Living Inc., or check out their great showroom, Big Bend and I-44 in Kirkwood, OutdoorLivingInc.com.
If you're looking for your next home, think of First Community. Our Smart Choice Home Loan offers a 30-year fixed rate of just 6.531% APR to qualified borrowers, and you only need a down payment of 10%. Whether it's your first home, your forever home, or even a vacation home, be smart with a Smart Choice loan from First Community for all your savings and all your loans. Must qualify for membership. For terms and conditions, call toll-free 1-888-642-7969. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing lender.
Hi, I'm Mike Robinson with Robank Properties, and I want your fixer-upper home. It's crazy to spend a ton of money fixing it up when I will pay you top dollar right now. I don't even care what condition it's in. Your trash is my treasure. No inspections, no contingencies, just cold, hard cash. Call me, Mike Robinson, at 314-283-0867. That's Mike Robinson, 314-283-0867, or at robangproperties.com.
Altair Travel and Cruises is proud to sponsor KTRS Pink in support of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and they're partnering with one of their preferred suppliers, Alma Waterways. River cruising is a hot way to travel right now, and Altair and Alma Waterways are offering $100 off any new Alma Waterways river cruise bookings made through Altair October 1st through the 31st. Call Altair today to book your next river cruise at 314-968-9600 or online at altairtravel.com.
Did you know that you can include backstoppers in your estate planning? Leaving a legacy gift is a great way to make a lasting impression on their mission. By including a bequest to backstoppers in your estate planning, your legacy will be to make a difference in the lives of families who have made great sacrifices for our safety. Legacy gifts help send children of fallen heroes to the college of their choice. It provides families with health care coverage and all out-of-pocket medical expenses and so much more. Consider making Backstoppers your legacy today at backstoppers.org.
Most people think if I name my husband as beneficiary, everything's going to be okay, and that's not necessarily true.
I'm Scott Garcia with Premier Estate and Income Planning.
What am I doing taking care of people after somebody has passed and all the mess that comes with that?
And I'm Jennifer Cermak, Chief Counsel and Estate Planning Attorney of Premier Estate and Income Planning.
No longer is the attorney the gatekeeper to your lives.
Let us show you how to protect your assets, avoid probate, and retire with confidence.
Having an estate plan could be the most important document you could ever have.
The Premier Income and Estate Planning Show, this Saturday at 4 and this Sunday morning at 7 on the Big 550 KTRS.
Mom, what do you always say? There's nothing sadder than jewelry that sits in a drawer.
That's why we are proud to offer jewelry repair on site at Newssetter's Fine Jewelry. We know that your jewelry is important to you, and we take that part of our job very seriously. Visit us at Doherty Ferry in Big Bend or learn more at wowdiamonds.com.
All right, welcome back. Frank and Jill Show. This is our favorite segment of the week. Greg Willard is in the house, and this is an historic day. This is his 500th visit at KTRS. We thought, when you had 400, no chance you had 100 more. Now we're going to go for 600. Are you up for it?
We'll give it a go. I'm happy to be here today, as in the 499 prior days, Frank.
All right. Supreme Court back working. Constitutionality of Trump's tariffs. How do you see it?
Fascinating case on a number of levels. The sort of the fourth grade civics class level, Frank, is this. The United States Constitution has a specific section in it where the power to levy tariffs rests. And guess what? It's not the president. The power to levy tariffs is in Article 1 for the Congress of the Constitution. The question that the Supreme Court is going to have to wrestle with is, number one, does somehow a president have plenary power under Article 2 to levy tariffs? Good luck with that one. Or has Congress ceded or given presidents their power, Congress's power, to levy tariffs? What the statute that President Trump is relying upon grants a president a number of powers, but, newsflash, the word tariff is never mentioned in the statute. The Supreme Court will have oral argument, and we will get a decision probably, Frank, in early 2026. I would just put this marker down for our listeners. Tell them to keep their ears open. I think there's a good chance that the court will strike down and find invalid the tariffs. The question I want our listeners to stay focused on is, what then is the remedy? Is it that tariffs going forward are out? That's remedy number one. Or all the way to the other extreme, all tariffs, past and future, are out, and Mr. Trump and Mr. Bessent, Secretary of Treasury, get your checkbooks out because you're going to have to write a check for about $1 trillion of prior tariffs. That question of remedy, Frank, is the one that I want our listeners to stay tuned for. That will be the bell ringer.
And also, I'm then, if for instance, the first case even scenario happens where it's not retroactive but moving forward, then it would be up to Congress then to vote on maybe perhaps enacting the same tariffs if there's a majority in Congress to sort of carry forth the president's tariff wishes via law.
You get an A+ in my class today, both my constitutional law class and my political view class, in that the dirty, dark secret of all of this is that the focus is being put on Donald Trump, and some say, hooray, hooray, balancing our trade environments. And others are saying he's a president gone crazy with these tariffs. The dirty, dark secret is the power, as I just said to Frank, is with the Congress. And if the Congress would simply do the job that we're paying them to do, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
It wouldn't be up to the Supreme Court at all.
The Supreme Court wouldn't have to fuss with it. But Congress, as they have done time and time again over certainly the last 50 years, here we go again. They're not doing their job, and so we have this complete kerfuffle with now up approximating $1 trillion with a T, $1 trillion in tariffs.
What about state laws designating college and high school sports based on biological sex assigned at birth? That's going to get a lot of attention from both sides of the aisle, but it goes something like this. A number of states have seen programs where, let's say, a boy begins to identify as a girl and he wants to play on the Acme High School girls soccer team because he identifies as a girl. States and state athletic associations have pushed back and said participation in girls, or in the college context, women's sports, will be based on biological sex assigned at birth. Those laws are being challenged, and it's now before the United States Supreme Court. They're being challenged on the question of, do they violate the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment and its first cousin, Title IX of the Civil Rights legislation from the 1960s. We'll get the answer. If I were to look into my crystal ball, I think the people who are trying to strike down those laws are probably going to have a pretty steep hill to climb. I think there's a good likelihood that those laws will sustain this challenge, Frank.
Let's talk a little bit about birthright citizenship and the president's executive order. Can you remind us what birthright citizenship is again and what is likely to happen here?
In the late 1860s, Congress passed the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, one of the most important amendments in our Constitution. It did a lot of things. It does a lot of things, one of which is it established what has come to be referred to as birthright citizenship. The common theme of birthright citizenship goes like this. If the baby is born in the United States, she is, pursuant to the 14th Amendment, a United States citizen, period. That is false. Let me say it again. That is false. What the 14th Amendment says is if she is born in the United States and, quote, subject to the jurisdiction thereof, close quote, she is a citizen. Example, Jill, to clarify the point for our listeners. If Mr. and Mrs. Jones live in Washington, D.C., and Mrs. Jones is the British ambassador to the United States, and she gives birth to her and Mr. Jones' daughter in Washington, D.C. That child, obviously, is born in the United States, and to tens of millions of our listeners, they would say, well, okay, that baby is a citizen. No, she is not. Because Ambassador Jones is a diplomat not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, and therefore her newborn daughter is not a citizen of the United States. The question that the Supreme Court is going to have to answer is whether a baby born to a mother who is here in violation of our federal immigration laws, whether that baby is a citizen or is not a citizen because the argument goes her mother is not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. So there are a lot of folks who are railing at President Trump's executive order as balderdash and that this is just crazy and it goes against 160 years of tradition in the United States. Well, it's fair to criticize, but to just sort of pound the table and say it's axiomatic if the baby is born in the four corners of the United States, she's a citizen, that is false. We will get the answer probably, certainly by the end of June of next year, if not sooner. But the Supreme Court will clear it up, Jill.
Another topic, whether a state law banning conversion therapy is constitutional. Where does that stand?
This was argued just within the last 48 hours in the United States Supreme Court. Colorado and I think about 25 other states have legislation in various shapes and sizes, but basically it purports to prohibit what is known as conversion therapy. Back to my example with the high school soccer team. If a high school boy has begun to identify as a girl, these states would prohibit conversion therapy, where the young person would sit down with a counselor, and the counselor would give them guidance and therapy as to that conversion from assigned at birth sex to what they're identifying. And this was challenged by a therapist in Colorado. And the therapist said that violates my First Amendment rights to have that conversation with that high school student. Colorado, on the other hand, says, well, no, it doesn't. We can regulate that conduct, that type of therapy practice. That's quintessential state government role. It was argued within the last 48 hours in the United States Supreme Court. If one can read the tea leaves based upon the oral argument, which is a risky thing to do very often, but certainly, I think most people came away with the sense that that statute banning conversion therapy is probably going to have a limited constitutional shelf life. I think it looks likely that the Supreme Court, in some fashion, is going to strike that Colorado statute down, which then will have the effect of putting into question the validity and constitutionality of the other roughly 25 states that have similar laws, Frank.
From the 314, love your guest. We totally agree. Greg Willard, thanks so much, as always, for these insights. It's we knew there was a lot going to be happening in this particular Supreme Court season, so to speak,
Yeah.
and there's lots more to talk about, so we can't wait to have you come back.
We are going to give them 501. Okay?
Well, great to be with you.
You're pass 500.
And a quick comment, if in my 500 appearances, and thanks to the texter just a moment ago, but if in my 500 appearances, in any small measure, I have clarified some of these legal topics to our listeners, check the box. I'm a happy guy.
Yeah, I think you have an
I
all.
thought you'd
all
say
500.
I didn't need a check for what I did.
Very true. We're right back after this.
Some of my fondest memories as a kid is heading down to the hardware store. You had to pick up a couple of nails, a couple of screws, maybe a gallon of paint, whatever it may be, right? It was your friendly neighborhood hardware store. Well, those don't exist anymore in St. Louis, except for Schnarr's Hardware. They have 2 locations in Webster Groves and in Clayton Road in Ladue. Schnarr's Hardware is that place where you go in and you can get that bucket of paint, you can get a couple of screws. The advice is always free. And the one thing about Schnarr's Hardware that every single family hardware store used to have, and that is the smell. It smells like a hardware store. It's got the selection. I don't know how they do it. It's a small store, but they got everything you ever need. They got the paint. They got paint matching. They've got big green eggs. They've got screws and nails and everything a hardware store should have. Schnarr's Hardware, 2 locations, 1 great hardware store. Schnarr's Hardware, we'll see you there.
You know what they say, you never get a second chance to make a first impression, and windows and doors are usually that first impression when it comes to your home. Dalco Home Remodeling custom makes their windows and doors, and better yet, they make them here in Missouri. Dalco Home Remodeling is locally and family owned, celebrating 50 years, so they know a thing or two. The Dalco team is known for quality and customer satisfaction. That's the way it was 50 years ago when they started, and that's still true today. So if you're looking to change the look of your home without breaking the bank, call Dalco Home Remodeling. They do free in-home estimates. Just call 314-298-7300 and make an appointment. You can also check them out online at dalcohomeremodeling.com. As they've always said, if you buy somewhere else and find out how much you could have saved at Dalco, you'll blow your stack. So call Dalco first, 314-298-7300.
Mizzou football on the Big 550 KTRS is powered by Royal Banks of Missouri.
Touchdown, Missouri!
Catch all the action right here on the Big 550 KTRS.
Tired of ads interrupting your favorite news podcast? Good news. Ad-free listening on Amazon Music is included with your Prime membership. Yeah, stay up to date on everything newsworthy with podcasts like The Daily, Up First, and 5 Things, uninterrupted at Amazon.com/ad-free. Just head to Amazon.com/ad-free to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. Ever wonder why Big Wireless wants you on an unlimited plan? They probably want you to cover the cost of those 20-somethings using all that data every month. But most people 50 and up like me only use 12 gigs or less. Don't get bamboozled by Big Wireless. Switch to Consumer Cellular. Our plans start at just $20, and we use the same towers as the big guys. Join the millions who choose something better, because if you're not using all that data, you're probably getting used.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM, visit consumercellular.com/facts or a store near you. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
St. Louis is home to more than 80,000 University of Missouri St. Louis alumni, where they drive the region's economy and contribute to its social and cultural well-being. At UMSL, more is what moves us. Find your more and build more connections at more.umsl.edu.
All right, so tomorrow we're excited. It's going to be an unbelievable program. Charlie Brennan, Tom Stillman, and our weekly special brought to you by our good friends at Kuna We're going to be joined by the great people at Il Balago. I believe it's Carmen, could be Frank, Gabrielle. They own an unbelievable restaurant in Creve Coeur off Olive Street Road, Il Balago. Try the veal saltimbocca, the thin layer of prosciutto with a little white wine. It's just spectacular. Their pastas are great. In fact, they have a presidential pasta that they prepared for President Reagan a long, long time ago that's become a staple there.
Wow.
So
what is in the presidential pasta?
It's a cream. I'm not exactly sure of it, but I've tasted it before, and I know it was really, really good.
The other guest that we have tomorrow, and get your questions ready. Ryan Raphael is going to be back in. So many of you guys have questions because we're just a week exactly away from enrollment period for Medicare. So he'll be in. So make sure you text in your questions. And speaking of texters, Frank, we talked early in the show about more and more people working in the post-traditional retirement ages, past 65, in many cases even past 75. And we got a couple of texts from people said, I retired in my late 50s, I retired in my middle 60s, and they were nurse and a police officer and a fireman. And I think when you have those kinds of high-pressure, high-stress jobs, of course, the idea of continuing to work forever makes a ton of sense. When you have cushy jobs like this, you can keep working forever.
Yes, and God bless them that they have good retirements too, and they deserve it. Teachers, I mean, that's just spectacular. In fact, I got a text from a friend who said that less than 30 years, it depends on the teacher's age. They have the 80 formula, your age plus number of years of service. When that equals 80, you have full retirement. For instance, you could be 55 years old, have 25 years of service, and that equals 80%. That's full retirement. Thanks, Bob, for that text.
Yeah, and I think there is a little bit of variation between school districts as well. Yeah. So it kind of depends on where you are, but it's that ratio or that formula is what a lot of people use. And some people continue to stay longer because they want more than that 85%.
Well, a lot of times they'll retire from the public school district and then work in the private school because it doesn't conflict. So keep working.
Or they'll change school districts and go to a different one or come into the even teach part-time in places where they're even more needed, like in the city. So very cool. Great conversations as always. Tomorrow promises to be as well, as Frank mentioned. So Carney Show's up next, along with Julie Buck and Max as well. And then, of course, Heidi's in the house from 3 to 6. Make sure you keep your dial right here and make it a great day, everybody.
Do you have 3 ex-wives and your current trophy wife wants a life insurance policy 3 times the size of the policies you had to purchase for your previous mistakes? If so, you need to call Big Lou.